exotic species. After this, you will know what an exotic species is and understand what happens when an exotic species is introduced to an ecosystem and be able to describe some examples of exotic species and their impact on ecosystems. Do you have that right there? Yeah, you do, right? Yeah. Okay. So you need that article from yesterday, and you can hunt for it. If you didn't get it yet, you were all here, I think, yesterday, right? All right. So what does the term exotic species refer to? So if you want to read it in the first paragraph right here, look at the answers there in that very first paragraph. Exotic species refers to, that's from yesterday, Ruben. Exotic species refers to an animal that is from Africa, a plant that is from Africa, a plant or animal that naturally lives in an area, or an organism that is not native to a particular area. I expect a question? Yes. I will do that right away. And I will sing the Jeopardy song in my head. Press enter, Tiffany. Ruben, got an answer for us?
You can do it.
And the answer is D, an organism that is not native to a particular area. I'll read it. Humans constantly bring ecosystems into contact with each other as they tend to take organisms with them when they travel, often with serious consequences. One of the best examples comes from Brazil, when in 1957 honey producers introduced wild African bees. It was believed that the more aggressive African bees would increase honey production. Although the imports do produce more honey, they also displaced native species and led to an overall decline in honey production. So yes, exotic species refers to an organism that is not native. It has been introduced, usually by humans.
Long via travel.
Humans tend to introduce new species when they travel, buy at pet stores, send packages in the mail, eat honey. Yeah? Do, 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 do. Ribbit. Okay. What's the question? What's the answer? Yeah, it's A, when they travel and they inadvertently take stuff from one place to another. A good example of introducing humans is when they introduced the killer bees. Oh, let me read. The African bees are usually referred to as killer bees because they tend to swarm and attack animals they see as a threat to their hive. Cattle, dogs, and humans have all been killed by the bees. Unchecked by natural predators, their population grew and they began to spread. By 1986, the bees had moved north from South America, across Central America, and into Mexico, claiming the lives of more than 150 people. By 1994, killer bee colonies had established themselves in Texas, Arizona, and New Mexico. Although the bees continue to move northward, coming into competition with local bees as they advance, most biologists believe that Canada is safe. Killer bees don't do well in colder climates. And I actually remember this being in the news when I was a kid in school, the killer bee swarms, and there was some concerns that that they were going to take over the world. Now, why did those silly humans introduce the killer bees?
Because it sounded fun.
Didn't you just do this?
That's probably why, yeah.
Why did those silly humans introduce killer bees to North America? Do you remember?
You legitimately said.
I know. It's hard to believe, though, that people still get it wrong, Charles. Yeah? Come on, Logan. The answer. Yes, they wanted to, because the bees are more aggressive, that they thought that it would actually increase honey production. Turns out they made a big mistake. Wouldn't you like to watch a video about it?
Yes.
It should be the,
And they somehow got out. No.
Escapes, yeah.
Okay, so one example of exotic species is the killer bees. What about one that is more local, that we're more familiar with here in Manitoba, and that is zebra mussels. So the question is, you can read for it there, how did the zebra mussel get from Western Asia to the Great Lakes? People brought it over as food and threw some leftovers in the lake. It was brought in to kill off another pest. It was brought in to clean up algae in the lakes or in the bilge or toxic wastewater from boats. Which one of those three do you think it is? You can read it in the paragraph. What's the answer? Yeah, the answer is D. In the bilge or toxic wastewater from boats. Allow me to read that to you. The identification of the zebra mussel in Lake Erie in the early 1990s set off a series of alarms that captured the attention of news media for nearly 8 years. Biologists believe this tiny bivalve, a native of the Caspian Sea in Western Asia, entered the Great Lakes from bilge water discharged from ships. In the Great Lakes, this exotic species found lots of food and so spread quickly. So the bilge water is why the boats take on, maybe for sewer or for washing or for that type of thing, and then they store it. So basically what they did is they accidentally transported water from the Caspian Sea to the Great Lakes that contain these mussels. So there was probably only a few hundred that actually came over, but then they just multiplied very, very rapidly. Why are zebra mussels such a problem? Do you know? You can read it. Guys are getting quick. Yeah, why are zebra mussels such a problem? The answer is they attach to hard surfaces and block intake pipes for factories. So really, it's more of an industrial issue, but they actually can cause a lot of problems for anything. Let's just get rid of this here. Here's some pictures that show some of the problems. They've attached themselves to, not even sure what that is. This is actually a lobster that's covered with zebra mussels because of the hard shell of the lobster. And they're covering up a pier here or a bridge, something like that. So they can cause many problems. Someone told me, who was it recently? They were talking to me about kayaking in Moon Lake. Oh, was Mr. Swingelski saying that if you take a boat from Moon Lake to Clear Lake, you have to dry it out, and they actually inspect you going from lake to lake inside the park. And if you have even just the tiniest little amount of water, you can be in big trouble. So you actually have to physically dry out your boat entirely. It has to be 100% dry. And I think that I remember we went to Calgary last summer, and there was stations when you get to the border, they inspect your boats as well, right? Yeah. In 1991, there were extensive colonies of zebra mussels in Lake Ontario, and small groups could be found in Georgian Bay on Lake Huron. By 1994, the zebra mussel was common in the Rideau Canal and throughout the Trent Severn waterway. By 1995, the invading mussels moved through the Ohio River to the Mississippi and can be found all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. So they have literally moved across North America. The mussels attach themselves to almost any hard object standing in the water. The mussels block water intake pipes from the Great Lakes, choking hydroelectric plants and freshwater supplies for a number of industries. Ontario Hydro Municipalities and the Ontario Ministry of the Environment all undertook massive campaigns to prevent the mussels from moving up intake pipes into generating stations, water treatment plants, and industrial plants. These efforts may also have diverted attention to resources away from pollution issues in the Great Lakes. So they have really caused quite a problem. What are some of the other problems that the zebra mussels are causing? I don't think we quite read that either. So, ecological problems. Ecology and the zebra mussel. Speculations about what this rapidly reproducing organism might do to the food webs of the lake ecosystems were even more alarming. For example, ecologists noted that the pearly mussel, a natural inhabitant of most of Ontario's freshwater lakes, had difficulty competing with the zebra mussel. In every place that zebra mussels invaded, a decline in the number of pearly mussels followed. The zebra mussels and pearly mussels should not compete for the same niche. Pearly mussels burrow into mud along the shore of the freshwater lakes, while zebra mussels attach themselves to hard surfaces. However, the shells of the pearly mussels are a hard surface. Layers of zebra mussels form on top of pearly mussels. So they're not competing in their niche, but they're in fact just killing them off. They're smothering them. Mussels are feeder filters. They put out small threads covered with a sticky mucus and comb the water to remove small organisms for food. Bacteria, algae, and even very tiny animals are taken into the mollusk for food. If many zebra mussels attach to the shells of pearly mussels, little food filters down to the pearly mussels. Also, the zebra mussels attach to the shells prevent them from moving to a more favorable location. The introduction of zebra mussels has not been detrimental to other species. Ducks, especially the lesser skunk, and other aquatic birds feed on the mussel. The discarded shells of the zebra mussel also provide underwater shelter for snails, aquatic insects, small crustaceans, and water rats. Hydra, a small freshwater relative to jellyfish, also benefit. The larvae of the zebra mussel provide a ready source of food. So the invading mussels have indeed caused problems, but the Great Lakes ecosystem has not been devastated. Zebra mussels do not cover the shoreline, nor have they eliminated competing species. One study of yellow perch in western Lake Erie indicates that they do not interfere with spawning fish. In fact, they may even help yellow perch by creating a more favorable habitat for small crustaceans such as crayfish that feed on the mussel. Perch eat crustaceans. So in fact, they're increasing the food source for perch. Some studies even credit the zebra mussel with long-term benefits. The number of algae has been increasing greatly owing to fertilizers and other human pollutants that were carried into the Great Lakes with the spring runoff. The growth in algae was also affecting aquatic plants, since algae were blocking the light from the sun. Mussels eat algae, and now aquatic plants are thriving once again. So they've actually done some cleaning of the Great Lakes. The mussels not only reduce the amount of algae in the Great Lakes, but they also remove pollutants. Each adult mussel draws in as much as 1.5 liters of water daily, retaining the pollutants and expelling the water. So much water is filtered now. So much water is filtered that Lake Erie is now 60% clearer than it was before the arrival of the mussel. However, all this filtering of pollutants does not come without a cost. The pollutants stored in the zebra mussels, what happens to it? If the pollutants, they filter out the water, they take out the toxins, where do the toxins go? They're left inside the body of the zebra mussel. And then what happens? The pollutants stored in the zebra mussels are passed on to predators for whom they can be toxic. And we're going to talk more about that in the near future. That's a process called bioaccumulation. So there's been some problems with the zebra mussels, but there's been some good things as well, right? So what do we got here? What are some other problems? You guys should have a space, I think, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so they killed off pearly mussels. Were there any other problems?
I think there was one there, wasn't there?
Find another one here. Were there any more there that we should note? They do. They accumulate. So that's sort of the good and the bad, right? Maybe I'll type it. They accumulate toxins that are passed on to other predators. How does that sound? Okay? So, do you think that we should try to get rid of them? Yeah? They're trying to be preventative. Apparently, Lake Winnipeg is now, they spent, the province of Manitoba spent a lot of money trying to get rid of them in the lake. They were unsuccessful. I don't know if I've heard if they're in Lake Dauphin or not, but I know they're very concerned about them getting into Riding Mountain National Park. So, what are some of the benefits of actually having the zebra mussels in the lakes? What did we come up with? Yeah, filtered the water, removed algae, right? What else? Oh, it was food for crayfish, I think, right? Is that what it was? Reduce the algae. Yeah. Yes, which was was in turn food for crayfish, and thus the perch, right? I'll do it like this. So there have been some benefits. So, what is Manitoba planning to do in the near future? Now, this is from a couple years ago when I was teaching this, summer of 2014. This is a news report from CTV.